When it comes to modifying the perceived gender of your speaking voice, there is one big question that everyone really wants to know. What impacts our voice more? The physiology of our voice? The size and shape of our vocal instrument as determined by hormones and genetics? Or the vocal behaviors we learn? How we use the instrument and voice we have? If you're trans, the answer to this question could help you figure out what path is best for creating a voice you love. Hormones, surgeries, voice training, or a combination of all the above.
We have the capability to make the world's first bionic man.
And even if you're not, let's face it, it's just interesting. Hi, I'm Renee, and I'm a gender-affirming voice teacher. Understanding the roles that biology and behavior play in shaping our speaking voice is kind of a lot. So let's start with some Vocal Physiology 101. Your voice starts inside your larynx, which houses your vocal folds. Air passes between the vocal folds, causing them to vibrate and create your fundamental frequency or pitch. Depending on how fast they vibrate, your pitch might be higher or lower. Ah, ah. The sound created by your vocal folds then passes through your vocal tract, which consists of your throat, mouth, and nose, and gets shaped and colored along the way. Depending on the size and shape of your vocal tract, an individual pitch could be brighter or darker. Ah, oh. When someone undergoes a testosterone-driven puberty, whether store-bought or homemade, certain elements of the voice can change. Number one, the vocal folds can thicken. A thicker vocal fold will create a weightier, buzzier sound and can also impact how the fold waves, which can make the pitch lower. Number two, the cartilage of the larynx can grow. A larger larynx can contribute to a larger vocal tract, which can create an overall darker sound. A larger larynx can also contribute to a longer vocal fold that can result in lower pitches. And number three, the larynx position can lower, creating a longer vocal tract length, which can contribute to a darker vocal sound. The overall effect of a testosterone puberty can result in a voice that is lower, darker, and buzzier sounding. So that settles that. The gender binary is real. All dogs are boys and all cats are girls. Okay, so that is a basic explanation of the physiological differences between a voice with a testosterone puberty and a voice without. But life isn't that simple, baby, so let's talk about speaking voice trends over time. Speaking voices, it turns out, experience trends, much like clothes and hairstyles. For example, studies have shown that the average pitch of both cis men and cis women in the United States has decreased over the last 100 years, even though no such trend in physiology has been found to account for it. This table from Voice and Communication Therapy for the Transgender/Gender Diverse client shows that over the last 100 years, studies have recorded a significant gradual decrease in average pitch for white cis men and women. This same pattern has been documented for white cis men and women in Canada and Australia. The authors of this book were very clear to point out that studies of vocal physiology in these populations have not shown a corresponding trend, which means that this trend is likely the result of behavioral changes over time. On top of voices changing over time, studies have shown that languages tend to have a wide range of average pitches. Check out another table from Voice and Communication Therapy for the Transgender/Gender Diverse client that shows the average pitch of cis men across 9 different languages. This table is in order of lowest pitched language to highest pitched language, and the difference between British English and Urdu is 10 semitones, which is almost an entire octave. To put this into context, another study showed that cis women speaking British English speak with about the same average pitch as cis men speaking Urdu. One more fascinating fact about pitch and language is that studies have shown that bilingual speakers often have 2 different average pitches, one for each language they speak. If that's true for you, let me know in the comments. So far, we have looked at average pitch a lot, and that's because it's an easy variable to measure, so there are a lot of studies on it. But pitch is only one variable that communicates gender, and not every culture uses it that way. For example, a study of Wu and Shanghai dialects of Chinese found that there is no difference in average pitch between cis men and cis women. And certain things that we take as obvious markers of gender in American speaking voices are completely different in other cultures. For example, I have said in the past that a wider range of pitches is considered more feminine, while a more monotonous voice is considered more masculine. However, studies of German speakers found that men tended to use a wider range of pitches and women spoke more monotonously. So what we're seeing with all this research is that physiology alone is a poor predictor of someone's resulting voice, because learned behavior plays such an enormous part in the voice that we create. But let me ask you, how did you learn to speak the way you do? I think we intuitively tend to assume we just always sounded like we do. But specifically, how do we learn to communicate our gender with our voice? According to a study from 2009 in Current Biology that studied the cries of 30 newborn French babies and 30 newborn German babies, the study found the French group preferentially produced cries with a rising melody contour, whereas the German group preferentially produced falling contours. In other words, the melodies of the baby's cries matched the melody of the language they were exposed to in their third trimester in utero. But my favorite line from this paper is this one. The present data show that German and French infants produce different types of cries, even though they share the same physiology. That means that babies that are only a few days old have accents. Isn't that amazing?
Hello! Why doesn't someone answer that phone? Hello. No, there's no Michael here. You have the wrong number.
So we learn language and accents from listening to our parents. But we also learn about communicating gender. If you're brought up believing that you're a boy because everyone tells you you're a boy and you know that dad is a boy, you're more likely to imitate dad's vocal behaviors. Same thing in the opposite direction for those marked girl. It really is the vocal equivalent of boy equal dog, girl equal cat. And of course, it's unfortunately not uncommon for children who exhibit gender nonconforming behaviors to have their behavior policed by authority figures in their lives. My editor T has a story to share about this.
When I was a masculine presenting kid, I got bullied a lot, in the direct beating sort of way, which I'm sure is not a unique experience. So, in order to sidestep admitting that my school had a bullying problem, the principal at the school, literally to my face, said it was on account of me not having a masculine enough voice. I'd like to state for the record that I sounded absolutely normal for a 9 to 10-year-old at the time. But as a result, I spent years trying to imitate deeper, darker voices, which has now become darkly hilarious as I attempt to undo all of those years of work. I wouldn't call that nurture, but it certainly wasn't nature either.
The sound of our voice can communicate so much: where we're from, who raised us, what gender we are, and what mood we're feeling. We start learning the behaviors necessary to use our voices to communicate as early as the third trimester of our gestation. So let's return to our original question. When it comes to the effects of physiology and behavior on the perceived gender of the voice, which has a greater impact? Let me read you one more quote from Voice and Communication Therapy for the transgender/gender diverse client. Even if two speakers identify as the same gender, are of the same height, and speak the same language, i.e. their physiology would predict near identical resonance systems, the two speakers are able to agentively shape their respective resonance systems in a manner that reflects other facets of their identity, such as ethnicity or sexuality. As a result, the two systems, physiology and behavior, could be potentially overlapping. Of course, physiology has an effect on what pitches we have access to and what feels comfortable when we're speaking, but what we do with that physiology really makes us who we are. It's our behaviors that communicate our cultures, moods, influences, and the people that have impacted us. Behavior is powerful. Choosing vocal behaviors consciously is why trans voice training works, and why you, yes you, have the power to create a new speaking voice that reflects and aligns with your gender, even if you're still in the closet, even if you're transitioning late in life, and even if you don't believe me right now. I realize that this video raises some questions about the impacts of voice surgeries. So if that is a subject that interests you, let me know in the comments and I'll cover it in a future video. If you learned something today, please show the algo your appreciation by throwing me a like, comment, subscribe, or watching another one of my videos. And if you want to receive these weekly videos in your email inbox, sign up for my newsletter at the link in the description. That's all for today. I've been Renee, and I hope this helps. Fascinating. Will they find it fascinating? Perhaps not.
I think it's neat.
Thank you. You are biased, my friend.
Yeah,
What if it were easy? I trusted you, teleprompter.
and you let me down.
Let me know, and what should I do with the kettle?